Hi, my name is Nita,
And I'm Victor.
and today we're going to show you how to extrude a figure in elevation. This is the figure I have here into your plane extrusions that you've been working on. So I have an example here. I'm going to show you how you're going to cut out a void using this figure, as well as make a solid that's going to follow the same shape. So here I'm in Rhino, and I have my plan view right here. And then this is my elevation view, or what will be my elevation view. This is the figure that I'm going to be drawing in elevation. So first I'm going to show you how you're going to cut a shape out and create a void in your plan extrusions. So if I were to project this shape into my plan shape right here and cut out a void, that's what I'm going to show you how to do first. So now I'm just going to go ahead and draw some guides for myself so I'm able to figure out where this figure is going to intersect with my plan extrusions. So first I'm going to draw this square right here, which is going to be the square that I'm cutting into, down into my elevation view. I would just do that by projecting these perpendicular lines. So since our plan doesn't have any angles to it, this is actually pretty easy to do from elevation because my figure would just extrude straight into my plan. So when I'm drawing my, when I'm imagining what my elevation would look like, it would pretty much just be this shape right here with this portion cut out in the middle. So I can hatch that to show you. The hatched portion is what my elevation would look like if I were to cut my figure out of it. So now I'm going to show you how you would measure that and cut it out in your model. So I'm just going to show you how I got some key points on my model in order to place my figure on this elevation face, which is the same as this face that I'm drawing right here. So the first thing that I did, this is a 2x2 square, which is the same as this red square here. But in order to place it in the right spot, I took some measurements from my Rhino model and I transferred it over into my physical model. So the first thing that I did was I calculated the distance. If you use the distance command, this is an easy way to do that. I calculated the distance from the bottom edge to where it intersects my figure. So from here to here, it is 1 9/16 inches. So what I did is I measured 1 9/16 inches from the bottom corner up, and I put a dot there. And then I did that again for right here. I measured the horizontal distance until this point, which is 1 7/32 inches. So I measured the horizontal distance from here to here, which is perpendicular to this point right here. And then I measured the vertical distance from that point up until my figure, which is 2 inches. So I measured 2 inches up and I plotted that point. And I did the same thing with this top corner right here. I measured the horizontal distance over, which is 17/32. So I measured 17/32 from here over. And then I measured the vertical distance, which is 3 7/8 inches. So 3 7/8 inches up. And then I just plotted those 3 points. And then I connected the dots. And then I was able to get the outline of my figure on this face of my elevation. And that's how I glued this shape on. So if we were to be cutting out this shape from this elevation, it would just follow the outline where it overlaps with this plane extrusion surface right here. Another thing that I want to mention is that since these are extrusions, we're going to imagine that this figure is being pulled straight back. So we'll show you this in a little more detail when I go to cut out, but we have this point here and this point here. And when we're going to cut it out on this surface right here, it's just going to be 2 straight lines that follow those points. And one thing you can do to make this a little easier on yourself is to make some key diagrams. So you could just draw this elevation in your sketchbook real quick and then put down your dimensions. And that might make it a little easier for you to follow along with your process and make your process a little clearer.
So as we noted, how we're going to cut out this rectangle or this just redo that. Sorry. So as we noted that we're going to place the square right here, we also figure out the points that this figure intersects with this column specifically. So we noted that there was 1, 2, 3, 4 points where we plotted. And so we outlined this out, and then we also took this and used the same measurements. So I noted in my sketchbook that this top part comes from the top to this point at 4 and 5/16 of an inch, and this bottom point at 6 and 7/16 of an inch. And so I marked those points on here and here, and then I connected these lines going towards the back as it is going to be extruded to the back, right? And so in that way, we'll be cutting out, or we'll be subtracting from this column the area where the square intersects as it goes back towards this column. And then, yeah, we're just cutting out. So now that I've cut out the portion where the square intersected this column, I'm not going to go ahead and make the surfaces that would be intersecting this column for the purposes of this tutorial. But as you move along your project, and depending on if you want to do this for your own project or depending on the instruction you receive from a professor, you can go ahead and place in the 3 surfaces or in your case, whatever cutout you choose for the subtraction that you'll make for the z-axis extrusion that you make in your original model.
So Victor just showed you how you would cut out an void in your extrusions, and now I'm going to show you what it would be like if you were to take this figure and fill in the negative space that you have between your extrusions right now. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these lines since we don't need them anymore, and I'm going to make some new guides for myself. So I'm just going to take the corners of this figure and see where they intersect when I bring them up. And I think I want to fill in the shape right here between this square and this square. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw that shape in so I know what I'm filling in. So I can see that this is the shape I'm going to be making, and this corner comes up and intersects with it. So I'm just going to hatch that shape in so I'm able to see it better. So again, that's what my shape would look like if I were to look at it in a plan view. That's what this figure extruded through would look like in a plan view in this specific spot. So this is going to be a little more complicated than what the void was, but I'm going to show you how you're going to be able to calculate these surfaces, because when you're looking at it in plan, since this is angled, in plan it's actually going to look shorter, and the dimension in Rhino is going to be shorter than it actually is because it's at an angle. So when it's perpendicular, you'd have a certain length, but when you turn it at an angle and you look at it from a top view, it's going to be shorter than it actually is. So I'm going to show you how you can find the true dimensions of each of these surfaces and how you're going to be able to cut them out and place them to fill this void. So now that I have an outline of what this figure is going to look like in plan between these 2 squares, I'm going to get rid of these guides and show you how you would find the true dimensions for these surfaces that you can cut out. So the first thing you're going to do is draw guides for yourself where they would intersect with our figure. So one thing to note is that all of your vertical distances in your plan are going to stay true, but all of your horizontal distances you're not sure, because this angle, when you look at it in plan, it gets skewed. So for our vertical distances, if we drag them down and we draw them perpendicular to our figure, we're going to be able to get the outline of our shape in its true dimensions. So I'm just going to figure out what the distance is from this point to this point, the vertical distance, and I see that it's 1 and 17/32 inches. So what I'm going to do is since this line intersects with our figure right here, I'm gonna draw a line that's perpendicular to my figure. That's 1 and 17/32 inches. Here we go. Then I'm gonna move that so it intersects with my guide. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other edge and figure out the distance between these 2 points, which is 21 and 32 inches. Draw my line where it intersects with my guide. Make sure it's perpendicular. And then since these 2 lines are at the same depth, I'm just gonna go ahead and copy it over. And this will help me figure out what my horizontals are, my true distances for my horizontals. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trim that excess right there. So now that we have one face, we can go ahead and continue unrolling the other faces. So I'm gonna start doing this side right here, and that would be this side right here. So since I know what this distance is from this point to this point, we know it's 21/32. If I want these 2 corners to fold up and line up, they're gonna be the same. So I'm gonna draw another line that's perpendicular to my square, that's 21/32 inches in this direction. And then I'm gonna copy that over for the entire length of my figure and connect the lines. And I'm going to do it one more time for this bottom surface, which would follow the depth right here. And that's going to be the distance from this point to this point, which we found earlier was 1 and 17/32 inches. So I'm going to draw a line that's perpendicular. And it's going to be the same for the entirety. So just copy that over and close that horizontal. And these are going to be the shapes that we need to cut out in order to get this figure projected in our plan at the angle.
So a moment ago, Anita unrolled the surfaces that we're going to build out the solid in this portion of our model in Rhino. And so as she was doing that, I went ahead and took a note of the surfaces that we're going to be building. And so there was this L shape, this rectangle, and this bottom rectangle. And so in building it out, it eventually looks like this, right? And as we put it into here, this would essentially be the solid that we're building. And we made sure to note this point here that we're lining up to place our solid. As we fit this in here, you can see that the square that we used to subtract from here and then fill in the intersection that, or the space that it intersects between, you can see the relationship between these 2 differences essentially. And so I hope this tutorial helps you moving along in your project too.
So I just want to emphasize that Victor and I were showing you how to make these voids and fill in the gaps, but by no means were these design decisions that we recommend. So make sure you put a little more thought into your own projects. This was just us showing you examples and giving you the tools to go ahead and continue along with your projects. So as you can see, we have our rectangle that continues through our shape, and good luck.